morning. Welcome to tonight's event, celebrating Upside Down Magic. My name is Melissa Poston, and I'm the Children's Buyer and Event Coordinator for The Novel Neighbor, a full-service indie bookstore in St. Louis, Missouri. Before I bring on tonight's guests, I wanted to tell you about a few upcoming events you might be interested in. This is my 13-year-old daughter, Molly, who has loved the Upside Down Magic book since she was 8, and she's going to chime in with some questions later as well. But first, I want to tell you about our events. So on 9/26 at 10:30 a.m., join us for a conversation with Sherry Dusky-Rinker and Alex Willen, where we'll discuss her best-selling Goodnight, Goodnight construction site series, his debut picture book, Unicorns Are the Worst, and their upcoming joint illustrated middle grade novel, Rever the Speedway Squirrel. On 10/6, it's really great. And Unicorns Are the Worst is great. And we've had Sherry before, and she's awesome. So on 10/6, we're going to have a virtual celebration of the first Animorphs graphic novel with author-illustrator Chris Grine, who's from Kansas City. On 10/7, we are thrilled to welcome Olympic gold medalist and World Cup champion Abby Wambach for the launch of the Young People's edition of her New York Times bestselling book, Wolfpack. But right now, I am so happy to introduce you to 3 of our store favorites, the co-authors of the Upside Down Magic series, Emily Jenkins, Sarah Mlynowski, and Lauren Myracle, as well as film producer Suzanne Farwell, co-founder and partner at Resonate Entertainment. Welcome all. I'm going to just pop them all into the stream here. Just give me 1 second. All right.
Hi. Hello.
Hi. And there we go.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Well, let's see, I'll turn mine today so I can get my poster in too. It's somewhere.
All right. So if you all want to introduce yourselves.
Sure. I'll jump in. Thank you so much for having us on. We're so excited to talk to you guys. And thank you for everyone for tuning in. I'm Sarah Mlynowski, and I am one of the co-authors of Upside Down Magic. But I've actually written 40 different novels, including the Whatever After series and a bunch of books, also YA novels and adult novels. So I've written lots of different things. And I used to live in New York, but I just moved it to Los Angeles a year ago.
I'll go next. I'm Lauren Myracle, and so happy to be here. So thank you guys for that. And I write the Upside Down Magic books with Sarah and Emily, and I write other stuff too. And I have 4 kitty cats and 2 dogs and 5 children. So that's a lot.
I'm Emily Jenkins. I'm one of the co-authors of the Upside Down Magic series. And I can see some of you guys in the comments, and I want to say hi back, but I have not figured out how to use the comment section. And I think I probably speak for Sarah and Lauren as well. This is a new tech for us. So if we're not commenting back, know that we love you and we love seeing your comments, and we can answer your questions that you pose in the comments later. Anyway, I'm the author of the Upside Down Magic series with Sarah and Lauren, and also of the Toys Go Out books and the Invisible Inkling series, and a book of fairy tales called Brave Red Smart Smart Frog. And as you probably know, if you're here, Upside Down Magic was made into a movie on the Disney Channel, and Suzanne can tell you about what she did as part of the movie making team.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. Yes, I was the executive producer of the Upside Down Magic movie for Disney Channel, which was a great joy to make and to collaborate with these amazing authors and the rest of the crew and cast of the movie. I've produced other movies such as The Intern and It's Complicated, The Holiday, Something's Gotta Give, and another movie for kids was the first movie that I ever worked on where I was not a producer, I was the assistant to the director, but it was the start of my career, and that was the remake of The Parent Trap with Dennis Quaid and Natasha Richardson and Lindsay Lohan.
I love every single one of those movies that you just listed.
Thank you.
I love them all.
So I would love it if we could start out maybe with just a brief little bit of information about like how all of this happened. I'm pretty sure that this is the first movie made out of any of your books. I
Not
thought,
Lauren.
and like I'd love to know how long did it take, and how did they decide what kind of script to make, and we just don't know very much about the whole process.
Yeah, and we don't really know either. We got to find out as the process went on, but it was a lot of mystery, and we had a little peek behind the scenes because Sarah has a dear friend who was able to give us a little bit more of the inner workings than we might have already had. But we were not part of writing the script. We were not part of picking out the cast. We were not part of picking out the producer, although if we could have, Suzanne is, of course, who we would have picked. And mainly, we did a lot of crossing our fingers and hoping and thinking, oh, please let it happen, please let it happen, please let it happen. And it always every step took longer than we thought. But then when it came together and we got to go to the set and see the set designs and the actors and the cameras, oh my gosh, like what, 40, so many cameras and so much equipment and the food trucks, then it felt really real. So I'll leave it there. I'll let Sarah and Emily take over.
Well, I want to say, when Lauren says a long time, she means like 4 years, like a really long time, in between the moment when Disney first said, hey, we might be interested in making this, and could we get an option on the book series, to the time when they actually started filming the movie. And the moment when I really realized that it was happening was really one of the first moments that they really let us in. And that was when, because they're Disney, they know what they're doing. They know how to make a movie. They don't really need our help that much. But they sent us the audition tape, or the audition video, of the two lead actresses, Sienna Agadong and Isabella Rose, when they read their parts together for the final time, right at the moment when they got cast. And if you look it up on Google, you can actually see the moment they aired it as a part of like a behind the scenes video, where you see the two girls get told that they're going to play the parts and go to Vancouver Island to shoot the movie. And they're so excited. And you can tell what a great chemistry they have together and how perfect they are for their parts. And so when I saw them, that was like the moment when I was like, oh my God, they're really making a movie. It's really happening. And so that was probably my favorite moment.
That was an incredible, I was in the room for that moment. And a lot of times you don't get to tell actors in the room because the producers and the executives want to go away and discuss it and then make the offer to the agent. But it was so clear, that we sent them out and we said let's tell them in the room. Actually, the head of the network wanted to do it that way, and we were able to film it. But it was so thrilling to see them, and I'm so happy that we caught it. We caught it on tape, and I smile from ear to ear whenever I watch that and remember that. But to your point about how long it takes, sadly, that's actually that's how long it takes, especially for an adaptation. If it's like an original screenplay idea or something, sometimes it's less. But 4 years maybe that's a little longer than normal. But things take a long time in the movie business. They really do.
One of the reasons it took them so long was when they first bought it, they were actually going to turn it into a TV show, into a series. So the first scripts were all 6 series pilots, and then they decided to switch it. And then they decided to turn it into a movie. But I believe Disney became interested in this before the book even came out, when it was still a manuscript. It wasn't even published. And Lauren Kieslowski, the exec, read it and decided that she wanted to pass it on to the other people at Disney. So it was, was it even 4 years? I feel like it may have been more than 4 years. When did this book get published? I don't remember when the first one came out, but
it all blends.
And even the other thing that's interesting is that they filmed it last summer and it only came out a year later. So even though the creation of it takes so long, and the scripts and all that, the editing after they've already filmed the movie still takes a year for it to come out. Because we all got to go to set last summer, and it was so much fun for us to see what was happening, everything. That was last August, right?
Yeah,
last August.
Suzanne, I have a question for you. I know from my very limited other movie experience that the director is sometimes given, so after filming is over, the director is given maybe 3 months or 5 months to do everything he or she wants to do on it before showing it to you again. Did that happen with our amazing director, Joe?
No, for me personally, in terms of being involved with it, in the post-production, you mean?
Yeah, or did he get some time to work on it on his own without, I don't know, feedback from you guys?
He was very collaborative with me, and he worked on it for a few weeks with the editor without me, but then asked me to come up, and I went up for a week and saw the cut that they had done, and then we worked on it further from there, and then got it to the place. Joe's incredibly collaborative and really is always wanting. He didn't always take my advice or my opinion or my suggestion, but he always wanted to hear it, which was a really nice feeling. So and he was just a dream to work with and collaborate with, and we got along great. So but he and I had it to where we were very, very happy with it before we showed it to the Disney Channel executive.
So people in the comments, T Bobo, thank you, knows when our first book came out, which was 2015. 5 years ago. So the development process must have been 5 years. And some people are saying that they've read lots of Sarah's whatever after books, and also 1, 2, or even all of the Upside Down Magic books. And someone asked a question about the differences between the movie and the books and how we felt about that. And I basically feel awesome, honestly. It's strange. It's a strange experience to see your story transformed into a new thing. But I think that we all just realize that a movie is a new thing. A movie is different from a book. And so no matter what happens, the movie is going to be its own thing. The actors are going to look like actual people, not figments of your imagination. The special effects are going to look one way or another way, that you might not be able to control. So even if it was the exact same story as the first book, it would still be someone else's interpretation. And I just felt along for the ride. Like, I was like, what are they going to do? How fun is it going to be to see all of this magic up on screen? But I'd be curious what you guys think. And Suzanne, what it was like for you if you only encountered the story of the books later, or if you even only only stayed in the Disney world of the books, and I tried to books.
Yeah, I tried to stay focused, because by the time I came on to develop the script, it was a draft, probably more than one draft based on what you're saying, what the development process was. They had already done several drafts. And so I was working even from the original draft of the script, and then we made it something, it changed even from there. So I tried to stay focused on the on the screenplays and try to not be overly influenced by having to stay too true to the books, but still wanting the spirit and the characters to be based on the books, of course. But yeah, so that was interesting for it to come in at that stage of the process and work with the screenwriter to get it where we got it in the end, which was not easy. It was, that was quite a process.
I remember when I was younger, and as probably many of us are, I'm a huge book lover. And I totally remember watching movies that were based on books and feeling, almost betrayed at the fact that they were so different. And it wasn't until I became a writer and started looking at the different ways stories are told that I realized exactly what Emily just said, that telling a story, using words is just a very different process altogether from telling a story on film. Instead of in words, you can talk about, for example, how a character feels inside of her head, but in the movie, you've got to show it. And so many things like exposition about walking across the room, maybe in a book, you need to have that there, but in a movie, maybe you just want to jump past all that and get somewhere else. And so I've let go of any expectation that a movie will be at all like a book. And that's fine. And that's made it easier for me to go in and enjoy them both for being different things. But in the case of Upside Down Magic, and Suzanne, this goes back to the great casting. For me, it is absolutely, Nori is Nori. Isabella Rose just captures her so perfectly and captures her optimism and her spunkiness and her smile and her enthusiasm. And so I couldn't be more pleased. I feel so proud and thrilled.
I will say that was the thing that I was most concerned about getting right, because I knew that the fans of the book, of which there are many, I have a lot of friends with kids who are huge fans of the books, that it was just, we really had to have that perfect Nori with that, like you said, the spunkiness and the optimism and that true believer quality. And so when we found Isabella, that was just thrilling. And so then you sort of breathe a sigh of relief that, but that was the one thing that I knew we had to get right for the fans of the books.
Yeah. Too. I mean, the Dritten is exactly our Dritten, which is so exciting.
Oh, and the Dritten, yes, the Dritten.
Which is exactly Sage 2, although, of course, our books are not set at Sage, but our books are set at Dunwittle, which is a public school, because she doesn't get into Sage Academy. But to us, getting to see the set of Sage, it was fantastic, and it was overwhelming, and it was exactly as we had imagined Sage to be.
Oh, I don't know if I've got the cover, but also, and then in the most recent book that came out, we used the Sage outfit that y'all created. Yeah, there you go. Lori Dritten was wearing the outfit right there. Yeah,
the purple jacket.
Yep, a little skirt.
All right, I think Molly has her first question.
Yes,
Okay.
I have a question that someone in the chat also asked, which is, obviously the three of you write these together, and they're not the longest of books. So, like, how does it work when you guys co-write? Like, do you all write separate chapters, or do you write all together and meet up and do it? Like, how does
I want to know this too.
We were just on the phone today for 3 hours, and we have okay, this is the bad version, the tough.
No, get the good version. Get the good version.
I'm happy, but no, today we're for 2 hours plotting out book 8, because book 8 is a hot mess right now, and we've written it from the beginning to the end, but the middle is the beginning is good, the end is good, the middle is a hot mess. And so we have a Google Doc, and Sarah writes in blue, and I write in orange, and Lauren writes in pink, and we're all typing on the Google Doc, not the actual book, but the outline. We're making an outline of the middle part of the book to try to fix it. And man, just cover your ears. I don't even want you to know anything about this. Anyway, and we're on the phone and we're typing all at once for 3 hours, until basically I said I have to go lie down. So, some days it is like that, and then Lauren can tell you about the days when it's awesome.
Well, it's always awesome, and Emily's always awesome. Emily, can I tell them about the typo that you did yesterday when you were typing?
I have a million typos. I don't know what typo.
All right, well, I'm going to tell them then. So we all write in different colors, and sometimes we have to say to each other, slow down, hold on. And often I'm the one being told, slow down, stop writing that. We didn't agree, because I've gone off and off. And so Sarah, we had all agreed, okay, this is what's going to happen in chapter 8. And so Emily, in her beautiful orange handwriting, starts typing. She's writing a scene about Elliot and about Nori, and she says, Elliot is going to reveal that he's figured out the clue. And she's supposed to type, Nori is going to. Instead, she types, Lauren throws a fit, and I'm like, no, not Lauren, it's Nori. And she put that in the draft. And then she quickly went back and erased the name.
And then at that point, we realized that Lauren is the one of us that is most like Nori.
No, not true.
I think that's true. And I am the one who's most like Sebastian.
and Sarah's Emily. Elliot.
Elliot. And there you go. And Sarah is the most like Elliot. Although, of course, there's a little bit of each of us in all of the characters. We bring our own emotions to all these characters and try to make them real that way.
We've always written separately because we don't live in the same city. So only occasionally have we been in the same room and have been able to do stuff together. But everything's been virtually way before COVID. We actually started writing together, I'll say, back in 2000. I think when we wrote a book called How to Be Bad together, which I have. I'll show you this one, How to Be Bad. And that's how we started to write together. Emily, I'm going to out your, Emily is also E. Lockhart for YA. And so the three of us wrote a book together. And that we wrote a little bit differently. That we each had a chapter, we each had a character, and say, I think Lauren started with her character and wrote a chapter and then sent it to Emily, and Emily wrote another chapter from her character and then sent it to me. So we did that very differently, but this we're writing all under one voice. So it's definitely a different process.
And so, yeah, we get our outline to where we like it. And Sarah's really good about keeping us on task and saying, but wait, I'm not sure this is working. I'm not sure this is working. And I'm like, of course it is. And then we get to the end of the outline, and then we take turns. Like tomorrow, we're each going to put in, 2 hours. Emily's going to go first, actually writing the manuscript, and then she'll pass it along to me. And each time we rename it, we redate it. We're really good about keeping track of all that logistical stuff. And we always track our changes so that we can go back and see, who changed what, and do we all agree? And we write little questions and tell each other happy things like, Sarah, this is amazing, or Emily, you're a genius. And, so that part's really fun.
People have more questions.
Yes. Sorry, Molly was just telling me that's to put up someone's question, and there it is. What power would each of you have?
Okay. Should we tell them about the different powers first, maybe?
Well, the powers are slightly different in the movie and the book, but just a little bit.
Well, it seems like everybody's read the book, but maybe everybody in the chat hasn't seen the movie. So maybe talk about what the powers are like in the book series.
Okay. Okay.
Well,
go ahead.
You go.
I was going to say, well, there are 5 Fs. And so you have flares, which is fire magic. You have flyers, which is flying magic. And you have flickers, which is invisibility magic in the book. Although in the movie, it's being able to move things away, right? It's pushing things away. And then there's also fuzzy magic, which doesn't exist in the movies. In fuzzy magic in the books is being able to, no, that does exist in the movie. Sorry. That's being able to communicate with animals. And then fluxers, it's turning into different animals.
But wait, I think in the movie Flicker Magic,
It's to you.
Flicker Magic is call it to you.
Yeah.
Upside down Flicker Magic is choo. Because in that scene with Pepper, oh my God, Pepper is another. They're all amazing. I love Pepper. But yeah. So those are the 5 magics, and so I guess we can include the Flicker version as one of our options as well. Emily, what power would you have today? She changes her answer every time.
I do change my answer. Well, I mean, we also haven't talked about all the different upside down versions of these magic powers, which is where it really gets interesting to me. I really like Elliot's power, which is also a little different in the books than in the movie. And Suzanne, I have questions for you about this, but we'll ask this. So I would go for the ice power. In the books, he has ice power. In the movie, he has smoke power.
And knowing Emily, I know that you would totally ask Marigold to pick up a juice box or a dumpling, or a juice box. No, wait, hold on now. If you're going to use your ice power, pick up a juice, because who wants a frozen dumpling? So pick up the juice box and you turn it into icicles for all of us, right? Because you're good at sharing.
I would do that, but I was thinking more in the zone of ice slides and palaces and things.
Oh, that's cool too. I was hoping you would share. Today I will choose that I would be a fluxer, because I'm sick of the coronavirus and animals don't get it. And plus they can move all over the world. So that's what I would do. And I would maybe be something magically flying like a Pegasus. So I could pop over and visit Emily in New York and Suzanne and Sarah in California, and pop over to St. Louis as well, of course.
I would choose regular flyer so I could fly as well. I don't need to turn into an animal.
Oh, Sarah. So practical. Oh, you're so practical.
I'm with Sarah. I would want to be a flyer. I have dreams about flying all the time, and it's so much fun. And that's an easy one for me.
Yeah, me too.
Well, so Suzanne, my question for you was, I'm sure there were storytelling reasons why some of those magic powers shifted from the books to the movies, but were there also I feel like somebody from Disney at some point said ice is really expensive, so Elliot cannot freeze. The special effect of ice is pricey, so we're going to go with smoke. We can just do smoke on the cheap, and that ended up being a whole part of his character, the smoke, and invisibility. I assumed was similarly pricey or difficult.
I don't know. I mean, honestly, so much money and so much of the budget went into the visual effects of the movie that I never heard anything discounted for that reason. I'm trying to remember what the reason was for the smoke. If it was, I don't remember, to be honest with you.
I just made that up, but I was just curious if, like, you know, with a movie that has so many special effects like Upside Down Magic, whether sometimes you're like, well, this part of the story where, you know,
that definitely does.
Village goes up in flames or whatever. Like, we can't have that.
Yeah, that definitely does happen. I mean, I can remember one thing. The only thing I can think of that changed, and it's not something that was in the books. That's not in the movie, but it was in terms of budgetary thing that we we changed the entire sequence. Was originally in one of the drafts of the script, the kids got to Sage on a boat, and that is incredibly expensive with logistics. And just like, we just realized we're going to eat up an entire day. And then I think Joe said, why don't they just because they took a boat to a spooky forest that they had to go through. So we said, why don't we? And then one of the kids was a fuzzy and was talking to a fish. And then I remember the whole fake presentation with this guy who had this fake fish. And it just became this whole thing. And we just finally said, Joe said, why don't we just have them go through a spooky forest? And we were like, great.
Perfect.
So, but yeah, definitely there are times when visual effects are just like, you know, cost prohibitive for sure. I just don't remember it being the case with this because we did Disney spent a lot of money on the visual effects in the movie that you see in the movie now.
I actually wondered while watching it if it had something to do with Elsa and not wanting a second Disney character.
Oh, maybe. That could be.
No competition for Elsa. You have a question? Yeah. All right, Molly has another question.
Okay, so I don't know if Suzanne, if you actually know this or not, but I thought I'd ask it anyway. So in the movie, in the book there are 8 leads, and in the movie there are 5, and only 4 of them are actually in the Upside Down Magic books. Were there any particular reasonings behind deciding which characters to leave in and which characters to leave out?
Well, I remember there was discussion about, you know, in a movie, you want to make sure not to have too many characters. It just gets confusing, and you really wanted to root individually for, you know, and you only have, you know, in a book series, you've got, you know, forever, and you can give a lot of different characters a lot of time on the page. But in a movie, you only have about 90 minutes to do it. So you have to be a little more focused, and the goal is always to have them be very distinct characters. So we worked hard on that, you know, making Pepper, you know, keeping her that kind of a character, and wanting them to be distinct and not so many characters that it just becomes it's diluted. So that was sort of the reason.
Okay. Yeah, we think y'all missed a great opportunity with Bax, who turns into a rock. He's a
I miss Bax so much.
Yes,
one of my favorite comments so far is from Catherine, who says, "Bax, poor man, the rock, the rock."
He also turns into a leash.
Bax is my personal favorite.
Oh, Molly.
Very sorry, Molly. You know what? I'm so sorry to hear. You know, but it's so funny. Actually, I'm remembering now in an early draft of the script, Bax was around, and then I think it was something to do with it was less cinematic and dynamic to turn into an inanimate object. And so that's an example of how you have to change things for a visual medium, you know, as opposed to a literary work. So
yeah, literary works always have to have inanimate objects.
Always.
No, for sure, every time Bax turns into a rock, that's basically my favorite thing that happens.
I'm so impressed with all the comments.
One time that he turned into a piano.
And a poncho and a leash. Yeah. And a swivel chair. And it got pushed all around.
Yeah, swivel chair.
Swivel chair is pretty funny. It is pretty funny.
I like them all.
And in book 4 is, I think, my favorite Bax situation, which is they go on this retreat. Book 4 is called Dragon Overnight, and they go on this retreat to a dragon rescue center. and they're visiting with all these amazing dragons, and they're out in nature and stuff like that. And Bax disappears. And
forgot about that.
Out in nature, and there's like rocks everywhere, and they're just like, I think it's turned into a rock. So they start collecting all the rocks that are like as big as Bax. You know, he's always the same size of rock. So they start but none of them know, like, does he have any distinctive mark? He's just a gray rock. He doesn't look very special when he's a rock. So they just start collecting all the rocks, and they're like talking to them, and they're saying like, it's going to be okay. We're going to get your medicine. And the nurse comes, and they put medicine on all the rocks, and they're talking to them, and none of them turn back into a boy, and they're so worried. And then he just shows up because he went to the bathroom.
That's funny.
We have a comment here from Sammy that I think is a really great question. Whoops, sorry, wrong one. And that's, how do you take a little idea and turn it into something that's now working on its 8th book?
Put in a lot of characters, and don't be like Suzanne. Make sure your cast is big, because what we decided to do was we came up with 8 characters, and if it had only been one book, it would have been a great only one book. And you never know sometimes. Just like, I know we're all, Sarah and Emily and I are sure hoping there's another movie or another 8 movies. That would be fantastic, but you don't know necessarily when you're writing. So the first book could have stood alone, but then our editor, y'all liked it, and that made our editor be able to give us permission to write the next. And so we decided, well, each book will have Nori as the main character, but we'll explore one of the other main characters' plot line as well. So the first book was Nori and Elliot. The second one was Nori and Bax, I believe, right? That was Sticks and Stones.
Yeah.
And so on. I can't remember the order past that. Wait, Showing Off. Maybe Showing Off was next with Pepper.
Mm-hmm.
I bet T Bobo could name them all. I love your comments.
Bobo definitely has all of the facts down for sure.
Yeah, he does.
The one we're writing now is Night Owl, and that's Sebastian. So by the end of book 8, we will have gone through all the different characters. Nori had her own standalone in book 1, but now we've gone through all the other characters. And
Finally getting the Sebastian book.
Yeah.
But one thing we do is we'll have a glimmer of an idea to answer this question about small story into a whole series. We'll have a glimmer of an idea, and we brainstorm. And we do brainstorming. We used to do it more on the phone. Now we tend to do it on a Google Doc while on the phone. But we throw out a lot of, I don't use this word lightly, but stupid ideas. I think you have to free yourself up to think of some really stupid things. And eventually you also think of some really clever things, or some really silly things, or just really funny things. But if you're scared of sounding stupid, then you don't get to the funny or the clever or the brilliant, right? So the stupid happens, and you just are not embarrassed, and you just keep going, and you bounce ideas off of each other. And eventually you come up with stuff that's much better than your first idea. It's your 30th idea.
Well, and we also knew with this one, it was a school series. So it says we get to see the kids' home lives sometimes, but a lot of time is spent in the school. And so first of all, that brings up friendship dramas. So that's fodder for what we might want to write about. But also it means that the school calendar ticks along. So we have time moving forward, and we can think about things like the weather changes and holidays and certain things that go along. And those could give us jumping off points that we brainstorm from as well.
Right. Things also that regular kids experience, we always wanted to include those, right? Like a school project, or a quarrel with a friend, or a field trip, or, things like that. A problem at home affecting your life at school, a quarrel with a friend affecting your relationship with another friend.
Or Myracle trying to take Elliot away.
Yeah. Willa.
Oh my gosh, I always get the two mixed up every time, don't I, Emily? You always have to tell me that wasn't Marigold, it was Willa. All right.
What we try to do is we try to take this regular school occurrence and then give it the magical twist. And our editor, David Levithan, always pushes us to do that. So if we say, we want to have, in the new book, there's a scavenger hunt. So then, we think, okay, how would that work in a magical world? And that's the fun part for us, to kind of just take the regular thing and then to hype it up with lots of magic.
Yeah, David's also adding in comments, add more hijinks, make it crazier. So letting the magic get out of control is fun.
Molly, you got one more
I
question?
have one more question. So kind of in the same vein of what you were just talking about, you said that you've got when you write the next book, that'll be, you'll have gone through all of the characters, giving them like exploring with their plot line more. How far, like, do you guys know yet, like, what the future of the series is going to be past that? Do you have ideas? Do you not have ideas?
That is a good question, Molly, and I'll let my two co-authors answer.
I think we have a lot of ideas.
We have a lot of ideas.
We have spin-off ideas. We have more regular UDM ideas. We could go on forever. Whether we will go on forever, I don't know, but we're not bored yet.
At this point, there's definitely going to be an 8th book, and hopefully there'll be more.
Yep.
All right. So I think we're just about out of time, but I would love to know, beyond Upside Down Magic Book 8, what is next for each of you? What else are you working on right now that you can talk about?
Suzanne, aren't you directing?
I am. I was in pre-production in Montreal on my first directing gig for a romantic comedy, and we got shut down because of COVID. So that was a real bummer. And so the hope is that we'll get it back on the rails and start shooting in the first part of 2021. So
that's so exciting.
Yeah.
Can you say what it is or not yet?
I can't yet.
Oh.
But it's good. It's a good one.
Do you just spend a lot of time in Canada, going back and forth? I mean, is everything in
a lot? Yeah, a lot.
We're finishing up Good as Gold, which is the next whatever after book that comes out in April. And Abby and her brother Jonah in this series fall into different fairy tales and mess them up. And in this one, they fall into the story of Goldilocks and the 3 bears. But then also it's a crossover because Rumpelstiltskin appears also. And it's the first book. It was very funny because I hadn't even thought of doing that. And then I was on a live Zoom with Shannon Messenger, the author. And I was saying, guess what story I'm doing for Good as Gold? And she said, oh, is it Rumpelstiltskin? I was like, no.
But it could
be. So I threw in Rumpelstiltskin, and it was a lot of fun to have 2 in 1, which is the first time that I've done that in 17 books. So,
that's brilliant.
Yeah, I love it. Someone was asking if Bax is in all the books, and he is. He's in all the books. There's so much Bax if you like him. Yeah.
Yes, I agree. In terms of projects, I'm finishing up. So I also write graphic novels for DC Comics. I did the one for the origin story of Catwoman, and now I'm finishing up the one for Victor Freeze, who is Mr. Freeze, and who's like this. Well, I guess if you're into comics, he's a big deal, but to me, he was just Arnold Schwarzenegger in one random movie. But I learned. Actually, I didn't learn a lot about him because the point of writing origin stories is to make up I created a lot of knowledge about him that came out of my head. And then the illustrator, Isaac Goodhart, is amazing. And it's so creepy and dark and gothic. And it has to do with Victor Freeze as a young, tortured scientist before everybody knows in the comic lore that Mr. Freeze's story ends with him. His girlfriend is going to die of a disease. And so instead of let her die, he freezes her so that she's frozen forever in time, allegedly, so that he can figure out a cure for the disease. So we knew that was where the book was going to end. And so thinking, all right, what would it take for an 18-year-old and for his girlfriend to get to the point where freezing her, and again, it's a cool job to have, right? To try to figure out how would this happen in some world, in some life, that you'd have a story that ended with a boy freezing his girlfriend in this crypto freezer with little pictures of them all over, like how you decorate your locker, but instead it's this freezer with her in there going, It's awesome. Emily, what are you working on?
Well, I have a book coming out in June that is called Harry versus the First 100 Days of School, which is about a kid named Harry who is going to the first 100 days of school. And it's a school story like Upside Down Magic, but it's realistic, and it's just very, hopefully funny and true, and it's set in Brooklyn where I live. And so it's as true as I could make it to what, kind of my neighborhood life is like living in New York City and Brooklyn, and the kids that are in my neighborhood and all the different types of people and the just the texture and the world that I live in. So it's a much more realistic story, and I had a really fun time with it. It has lots of pictures. It's fully illustrated in color. So that was also really fun. I love writing for an artist to draw.
Yeah.
And who's the illustrator on that?
Pete Oswald, who did The Bad Seed and Hike most recently. I'm sure you know his stuff.
Yeah, that's amazing.
He's good.
Well, thank you all for being with us tonight. It's so lovely to have you, and also that you're also prolific. So we have so many different things by all of you to enjoy, which is just fantastic. And I also love that you all write for a variety of age groups. So, your fans can really grow with you through your various books, which is very cool. And a lot of people don't do that. So the fact that you all do it and you write these books together is just one of my favorite things. So, so I just want to let everybody know there you can see in the banner, if you would like to purchase a copy of the newest or any Upside Down Magic book or any book by these wonderful authors, you can do so at our website, which is thenovelneighbor.com. We hope to see you at an upcoming event, and we thank you all very much for tuning in tonight.
And we thank the Novel Neighbor so much. You guys are amazing. It means so much to us that you get books out into the hands of people, and the work you do is phenomenal. And Molly, your questions were fantastic. You sound really smart. Not like that.
Yeah.
Like facts. So thank you guys. And it's fun to see Suzanne. I haven't seen you in a while.
Good to see you all. Good to see you all. And thank you for having me.
I want to say also just, I saw it earlier in the comments. Someone asked if the movie was on Disney Plus. It's on Disney Channel, not on Plus yet. It'll be on Plus later this season, but it's running pretty often on the Disney Channel, like your television channel, all the way through the end of October. But if you want to rent it, you can totally rent it on like Google Play or Amazon and whatever and see it,
And iTunes.
Yeah. iTunes. Yep.
Yeah.
iTunes.
Great. Thank you.
iTunes. Yeah. And also, Novel Neighbor, you guys are the best. You're such a good bookstore. You're so cute. When I visited you, you're just and am I remembering right? There's a party space.
There is a party space.
Not open right now, but
it was a party space in the before times. Now it's a shipping room, but it'll be a party space again.
It'll be a party space again.
I just want to say for anyone, if you already have the Upside Down Magic books, you can still buy other books from the Novel Neighbor to support them and to help them get through this nuts time. So don't worry about the Upside Down Magic. They have lots of books, and I'm sure they'd be happy to recommend other books for you to buy too.
Thank you, 100%. And hopefully they'll, in the after times, we will welcome you all back to the store in St. Louis in person. We would love to see you again there anytime.
We would love that.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks.
Right. Thank you all.
Thank
Everybody
you.
have a wonderful
for coming.
All right.
Yeah,
Bye,
thanks,
guys.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Bye.